A lot of people don't know how much you have supported the Indian Nation, starting back with Bo Dallas and Wild Magnolias. You introduced them to the JazzFest and making sure there was a presence there. Is it something that you have consciously kind of thought of through the years to make sure that you shed some light on the Indian culture?
It's one of the things that I'm most proud of in my whole life and what I've done, and that's bring the Mardi Gras Indians out. Just before me, in the community, when you heard Mardi Gras Indians were coming, people would take their kids inside and close the door, right? Because that was back in the hatchet days. And it evolved, as culture does, into competing with music and competing with the suits, and not so much, the hatchets, or Brett Timber took a shotgun down to the battlefield. I was hanging out with them, with the Wild Magnolias. Monk was in that group. And I was going to practice. What would happen is Indian practice was in bars. And you'd have the jukebox going. And that would be like the real music, the real songs. And then you'd unplug the jukebox, and then the Indians would go, and then you plug the jukebox back in. And I was like, let's bridge that. Let's get Mardi Gras Indian music on that jukebox. There was one gig at Tulane. I had a little thing I called Get It Together. And one night we had the Wild Magnolias and Willie T. And the Wild Magnolias acoustic. It hadn't done anything with bands, but we were doing stuff. They were playing. Willie heard something, and he got up and went on stage and sat down at the piano and started to create this music that went with what they were doing. And that was like the birth of it. And we went and recorded Honda Wanda, which still comes. Some of the songs, Honda Wanda, Smoke My Peace Pipe.
Smoke my peace pipe, smoke it right. Smoke my peace pipe, smoke it right. Smoke my peace pipe, smoke it right. Smoke my peace pipe, smoke it right.
Every year at carnival time, we get a new suit written by Willie. But, I remember as a youth going to Mardi Gras, I think with my parents, on Claiborne Avenue, I saw this big, bright red thing come running across the street and running across the neutral ground. Just huge red thing. And I was like, what is that? That was a Mardi Gras Indian. They're doing songs, Hold 'em Joe, Donkey Want Water, that I have recordings of being sung on a Bahamian dock.
Wow. Wow.
And it's a deep, far-reaching culture. They sing about Angola. See that man on the big white horse? I don't know his name, but they call him Boss. That's Angola music. Now there's a lot of drums in it, but real Mardi Gras Indian music, and the cowbell came in, is all tambourines. And man, when in those days, when you get 6 or 8 tambourines just slamming and going and making these rhythms, fantastic. The beadwork that they're doing now, there's no beadwork in the world. I've been to Africa a bunch of times. There's no beadwork in the world like these men are doing now. It's incredible. So they got the artistic going on, and they got this form of music that's absolutely unique to New Orleans. Absolutely unique. And these things tend to blend together. I was at a parade recently, a second line parade. I think it was an Indian funeral, and they had a brass band. The brass band was playing brass band music, and the Indians came up and they started a song like Pockway or something, and the band fell right in. And now you got, this is like jazz being invented before your face. The brass band is playing with the Indians just like it's natural, right around the song, and it fit together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I would go up to people, would be at an Indian thing, and I'd say, do you know where else this happens? And they look kind of befuddled, and I said, nowhere. Nowhere else does this happen. It's fantastic. You have men that sing these songs, and they just come out of nowhere, and they sing these, like Bo, they sing these beautiful songs that it's a culture they know the words to, and then they sort of go away. That's an amazing, beautiful thing.
We're going to have Bo Dallas Jr. with his Wild Magnolias today with Dumpster Funk.
Ah, cool.
So you probably remember Bo coming up with his daddy, Bo Senior.
I had a reel-to-reel, a big clunky heavy thing, like 69 or whatever it was. And I would carry that out and record stuff, right? And Jules Kahn took me to my first Mardi Gras Indian practice. And that must have been in the late 60s. And it was a White Eagles practice. It was a downtown practice. And I came back and I heard this one voice that was incredible. This beautiful voice. It just didn't sound like any of the other voices. I was like, who is that? It was Bo Dallas. And he just, stood out. His voice was amazing. He called it the Wild Magnolias Mardi Gras Indian Band, because people needed to know, what it was, all the names. And then Monk was in it, Joseph Pierre Monk Boudreau, who's the big chief of the Golden Eagles. He was in the group. Now, he was another big chief, but it took the name of the Wild Magnolias. Monk is like a chief of chiefs. I mean,
Yes.
the respect that he has. But he has the knowledge of all the old songs and all the old words. I heard a jam not too long ago, because it's younger people now, and they did Corrine Died on the Battlefield. Well, I hadn't heard Corrine Died on the Battlefield in, 20 years or more. There was a guy named Black Johnny who lived in the country, and every Mardi Gras he would come to town, and he would sing the songs about Angola and stuff, and Monk was listening to that, and he now has that knowledge, which is really, really valuable. The words, again, like we discussed, getting passed on.
Yeah.
When I first came out, Monk's father, Jumper, was masking with Monk. On Mardi Gras Day, we'd go down and go up the steps to Jumper's place, and he'd have hot dogs and red beans and rice. We always would stop there. Yeah, I remember Jumper, Monk's father. So that, an interesting story, because you asked about Katrina, and we have this foundation, 501c3, that was supporting social aid and pleasure clubs by paying the police, because the cost went up and up and up. You don't want to give them the money to the groups, but by paying the police for the parade, you gave them a lot of money. So after Katrina, we said, we got to help Indians come back. There was only a couple of tribes. And so we started this plume thing, where we'd find out what kind of plumes you wanted, how many pounds it took, which has grown now, huge. But just in the first few, and Monk would organize that, and get it out there. It got to the point that we'd get this huge box of plumes, and it wasn't divided up. Because we had 20 tribes, and the chief is getting this, and the queen's getting this. So we'd go in this kind of warehouse part of this place, which was hot, and Monk sent his son to work. And, we were doing the thing, and I asked him, I said, man, what's going on? What are you doing here? He said, my grandfather was an Indian, my father was an Indian. He said, do you think I'm going to be the one to let it go?
Right.
Yeah, that's African, honoring the ancestors.
Amen.
Yeah, and that carried on.
Wow. You want to tell us anything about your T-shirt?
Well, it somewhat speaks for itself.
Agreed.
I think that George Porter had to do with these shirts. I had a red one and a black one, and it was at the height of meterdom, and they. Because there'd never been a lot of merch with New Orleans bands. But I don't know if they sold it or how it went around, but they came up with it. And I said, oh yeah. It was during a period where that was true.
Well, Quint, this has been amazing, and I hope we can do it again real soon. Support JazzFest. Support local musicians, New Orleans musicians. That's what you can do. If you want to ask, what can you do? And please support the Jazz and Heritage Foundation, particularly their music education program and some of the other programs. All you need to do is go to their website. There's plenty of opportunity to donate. What a great organization. Quint, one of the most successful promoters in the world. You've done concerts all over the world, including at the White House, and been involved and the leader of the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, one of the most successful festivals around the world. And you've brought New Orleans to the world. We thank you so much. Please keep doing what you're doing. I know you will, but we are so in debt to your efforts.
I mean,
thank you.
I hope I will. I don't know how to do anything else. But we've established, we have a saying called the festival family, because in our company, let's say 30 people, they average 20 to 25 years together. We have a number of them that have been there 30 years. I mean, if you've been in doing the festival for 10 years, you're a newbie. And so we've grown up together. You know, I'm a figurehead, that's why I'm here. But we have this festival family of people that have been through it for like 25 years at least. And that's why when 9/11 happened, when Katrina happened, now when this happened, you know, they roll with it. It's really hard. Some people are on furlough, you know, but they're all going to make it back to the festival. And that's really what makes the festival. I mean, there's two things that make the festival. The people that put it on and put it there, but the life comes from the people of New Orleans. That's because they are the culture. I mean, otherwise it'd be like the world's greatest sound check, you know?
Yeah.
But they come in, and their relationship with the culture and their reaction to the music. I mean, that's why you get the greatest performances, really, of the artists that play, because of the New Orleans people and the vibe that they have for music and how they, you know, give and give back. So when those two things meet up, it's pretty good.
Amen to that. Amen.
Yeah.
You know, and you and your team have done such a great job, and we talk about passing the torch. Your effort has been that, passing the torch around the world, not just here, but around the world. Thank you very much. Quint, this has been fantastic.
Well, believe me, it's been my pleasure.
Awesome.